Hello, Rick here with a look into another piece of Star Trek technology. We've done transporters, tricorders and replicators in the past, so this time I'm looking at tractors. Tractors are agricultural vehicles that are... beams. Tractor beams, that's a whole other thing. As usual, I'll look into Starfleet's history with them, as they are a standard technology that is sort of developed by many starfaring powers. It seems when you've reached a fine enough level of particle manipulation to create holograms, deflector shields and energy weapons, tractor beams are just sort of par for the course in terms of development. Of course, not all species use them with simple utility in mind, such as the Tholians, but I'll get to them in a minute. Originally, when Starfleet started exploring deep space, which in the 22nd century was anything further than Vulcan, their vessels were equipped with grappler arms. These devices were simply magnetic cables that would magnetise to another ship's hull in order to drag them around. This was used for towing, guiding and rescue operations, as generally they were not powerful enough to pull in an unwilling vessel. This is reflective of Starfleet's priorities, as honestly, grappling arms could be used to great effect as weapons to hinder a foe in combat, if they were a little more aggressively designed. For example, some featured piercing claws at the end that would break through the hull of a vessel, instead compromising the victim's ship. Pakled, Vidians and the Orions all used this more aggressive form of grappler, although the Enterprise NX-01 did manage to cripple a Klingon D5 by yanking off a nacelle once. Still, it's not exactly the primary function. The tractor beam was developed not long after the NX-01's exploits during the Earth-Romulan War, in 2159, despite the other members of the Coalition of Planets already having them. So, in Star Trek, the tractor beam is a focused beam of gravitons carefully calibrated for its purpose. A more powerful graviton beam, for example, could be used to punch holes in the fabric of reality to other realms, such as fluidic space, or even create wormholes. Gravitons are particles that act as transmitters for gravitational forces, and in real life are, as far as I know, still theoretical, as in likely but unproven. In Trek, however, they've been one of the many exotic particles that the Federation can manipulate to all sorts of effects, and are the secret behind gravity plating in most spaceships that generate artificial gravity. Anti-gravity devices, such as transportation sleds, are made using anti-graviton emitters that, as you'd expect, nullify gravitational forces in their range. So, the tractor beam comes under the operations section of a bridge, and many starships feature multiple emitter points across their hull to provide for a variety of angles, but the primary array is usually located under the main hull of the ship. It was common for ships to also have tractor beams installed within their shuttle bays, or just above the hangar entrance, in order to assist in guiding small craft in for a landing. In a pinch, these hangar-based tractor beams could even be used to slow an incoming vessel in case it was moving too fast, to an extent. When a tractor beam strikes matter, an interference pattern is created across it, the strength of which lessens the further away it is, so the closer an object is to the tractor emitter, the stronger the pull. Naturally, the level of power being supplied to the emitter also determines the strength of the beam, with vessels such as the Galaxy class or Defiant renowned for their excessive power generation, being able to grapple targets with more force. Manipulation of the pattern and power can keep an object at a certain distance, matching any counter forces, or it can be used to attract or repel a held object. Another factor that affects the efficiency of the tractor beam is the mass of the object being tracted, with a very large object requiring far more power, sometimes more than can be exerted through an emitter without burning it out. Repelling an object is accomplished by simply inverting the interference pattern. This was commonly used to deflect objects, reposition them, or sometimes even repel vessels that got too close. The area where the pattern is formed on the object in the beam is subjected to a great deal of stress, which can sometimes cause compromised or weaker hulls to buckle under the beam, pulling the target apart. Equally, as with many particle devices, interference with either the targeting scanners or the graviton beam itself can render a tractor beam an unfeasible option in certain situations. Destroying the emitter of the tractor beam also deactivates the tractor, but the matter gets a little hazier when shielding gets involved. For the most part, it seems deflector shielding prevents a stable tractor lock, but shielded vessels have been caught before. In these situations, however, the resisting vessel can remodulate its shielding, flood it with some form of interfering particle, or even send those particles down the beam, and the tractor will probably lose its hold. Tractor beams, like everything Starfleet likes to produce, are versatile tools. The beam can be manipulated with enough finesse and resources to act as a structural integrity field, holding together a damaged ship. But such an action takes a lot of energy to maintain. Another frequent use for the beams sees them employed against a planetary body in order to stabilise or destabilise tectonic activity, which can be as dangerous as it sounds depending on the planetoid in question. There have even been instances of tractor beams combined with a transporter to hijack a matter stream. Some of the most impressive tractor beams are located within Starfleet-style bases, where such installations generally have larger energy generation capabilities and a less diverse demand on those resources. As with shuttle bays, but on a larger scale, docking rings, starship-sized hangars, and space frames often have incredibly powerful tractors that can counter even a vessel trying to move at full impulse. For reference, full impulse is generally about a quarter the speed of light. Other vessels include the various tug ships that are commonly seen around space docks, bases, and anywhere ships congregate. Not really any more powerful than a starship's tractor beams, these are impressive for their size, like an ant carrying 10 times its weight. Borg tractor beams are some of the strongest around, which is terrifying because, like a hungry predator, once they have you, they're not likely to let go until they have what they want, and will gladly take their time in assimilating the crew, then maybe the ship. On top of this, they've developed a method of draining shield strength through their tractor grapple. Of course, the reputation for the most ingenious use of the tractor beams goes to the Tholians. The crystalline aliens not only use them as other species do, but they've taken the technology further in order to produce somehow self-sustaining graviton beams, or at least ones that can be cut free by the ship. Using these strings of gravitational force, they spin connecting webs that repel any matter trying to pass through them, such as an unlucky starship. From what I can gather, real-world tractor beams function in a very different way and are still a long way from being Trek levels of utility. There seem to be various methods of creating an attractor beam, and most do not function in a vacuum or have only seen success at an atomic level. Looks like the most promising results can be found with the Bessel beam and the solenoidal tractor beam. I tried to understand these things, but I have only an understanding of pseudoscience and made up stuff, so much props to those who actually pioneer this sort of thing. So, thanks for watching my vid on tractor beams as depicted in Star Trek. Like many things from the fictional universe, it's both inspired by and occasionally inspires real-world developments. If you can think of another tech I've not covered yet, let me know and I'll take a look. Until then, thanks again for watching. I've been Rick and I'll see you later. Goodbye.